I mean, the majority of the deals we do now, we don't use any of our own money. We don't use any of our own credit, and we actually have zero investment in most of our properties.
We're blown past 2,000 reservations. Oh, I think we crossed the 2 million mark in
if not,
bookings.
we're pretty damn close by this point.
Yeah. So if you look at the growth trajectory of August, which was at 600,000, and that's booking since we started our short-term rental business in October 2018, we're now over 2 million.
Folks that are watching out there right now, drop a like below. You know, these are two entrepreneurs that came from the W-2 space and have proved out their model, and they're very successful doing it right now. You know, 30 plus properties. Guys, congratulations. That's phenomenal. So what got y'all started in the Airbnb? What's your background?
That's a good question. Yeah. So I think, well, what's our background? I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to think of really good, like, honestly, like, if you look at it, like, I've been honestly working since I was 12 years old. Like, I started with flyers, like,
Same.
and, and Michael started with flyers too when he was like 12, but like most recently, I mean, we're both kind of a sales background. Like, I used to be in economic development. So with the local municipality here, and economic development was just getting business situated in the city, attracting them to the city, getting them set up, make sure they were successful and grounded, and make sure they were doing well. And ironically, that's what we do now in our business with our coaching business. So, but we were doing that. I was there for, a couple years, and it was awesome, but it was just long hours, right? Just like everyone, it was an hour there, hour back, and
I mean,
long days.
As Katrina was mentioning, my resume probably looks a little bit more like a scattergram than a very well thought out plan of, career progression from one thing to the next. But I guess the thing I was doing before we were in this, I used to work in finance. So I used to actually be a currency trader. And full disclosure, I actually really liked what I did for a living. Like, I know there's a lot of stuff online, job shaming people, saying that if you're not an entrepreneur, you're just like a subhuman being or something like that. But I actually really liked what I did for a living, to be totally frank. But again, pretty long hours, like 60, plus sometimes 80-hour weeks, like, especially when you factor the commuting, because it takes about an hour to get to downtown from where we live, right?
Yeah,
both ways. So, I mean, for us, really, like, we had another business going before. We used to do Amazon FBA. There's tons of stuff online all about that. So if you want to go check that out.
And it was a 6-figure business with that as well. And, we sell like wine accessories. Like, I'm a complete wino. I love everything about wine, and it was great. But the thing is there's a lot of changes, with any kind of like internet type marketing, like there's an internet type business, like, it's all dependent on other people. So like, for instance, with China, if you're bringing something in from China and the imports, it's like, especially during COVID, that totally got shut down, right? Like, it was crazy. So it wasn't very tangible. Like, we felt not in a lot of control, like with tariffs and everything like that, and all the products and shipping. And then really we came across this business through a podcast. Michael had brought it up to me. And
I was just driving home from work one day, and kind of heard about this idea. I'm like, that's interesting. How the hell would you do this without actually owning property?
Yeah. How do you run a short-term rental business without owning property and making money off of it?
So then one thing led to another. We took a class, and, got our, knees scraped up and, bruised a bit, but, here we are 2.5 years later at 30 plus properties, and probably around 40 by the end of the year. So
actually 40, probably the next few months with what's on the docket right now. It's pretty exciting.
So safe to say that y'all are not doing the W-2 anymore, or?
Yeah, so we retired ourselves from traditional employment. So,
we like to call it a chicken entrepreneurship, where we did this with full-time jobs. Like, our first year, we built up to 12 properties. Like, our goal was 1 property per month. It didn't really end up being that way. Sometimes we did like 1 property every 3 months, and then 1 month might have been 4 properties. Like, it was pretty crazy, but overall, like, on average, 12 per first year. But that was with full-time jobs. Which is pretty insane. But it's just evenings, weekends, and once you get it set up, it runs. Like, we have our properties still running almost 3 years now from the first setup, which is incredible.
And that's the nice thing about like this industry, is like, if you want a pay raise, just go get another deal, right?
Now, what was your initial startup cost? What did you guys go into this with?
So I would say in terms of total initial outlay was probably around 20K, but it wasn't all at once.
In our first year, I would say was 20K, and that was to get to 12 properties.
And like, but knowing what we know now, like, I mean, and we've even coached people too, like, if you have that, that's great, but you don't necessarily need that too, depending on how you structure the short-term rental transaction. And there's actually a lot of ways you can do it with, I mean, the majority of the deals we do now, we don't use any of our own money. We don't use any of our own credit, and we actually have zero investment in most of our properties now.
Yeah. So like, I mean, OPM, other people's money, is definitely a huge way to make sure that you're growing and scaling and safely, doing it with partnerships, rental arbitrage, like just making sure you're looking at the costs and how you're actually going into these deals and making sure the deal makes sense. So looking at it even before you go into the deal, make sure, what is the income potential? What are you actually going to make? Does the numbers work? Coming back to a math equation, does the numbers work for this? Is it worth it? And then getting it started and up and going. So kind of, I guess, the state of a union of where, we started to where we're going. So, I mean, we started with a very small, like 1 bed, 1 bath unit. It was about, I think, 450 square feet. Like, it was tiny. It was like this like little apartment, and it was, it was an old building, I think built in the 60s, had been renovated. And that's where we started with. Rent was extremely low. So that was an amazing start. And then really from there, we've built it up to a point where we have everything like a mixed bag. If the numbers make sense, you can't go broke making a profit. Yeah. So we have like basement suites, we have condos, we have townhouses, single family houses, duplexes. We have like, houses with elevators in it and rooftop patios. Like, it really just depends if the numbers make sense. And then that's the ones that will, sign the deal on, and away we go.
Yeah. So one of the unique things that you guys have brought to the table, and I've been a big fan of short-term rentals for a while, and obviously Matthew on the channel is as well. You guys brought the arbitrage into that. How did you stumble across that? What did that look like for you guys from the outset? Because that's very unique. That's very innovative.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, maybe just to clarify terms. So like, we started, because there's a number of ways you can structure a short-term rental transaction. So there's kind of 3 models. So the first one that a lot of people would be familiar with would be, you can actually own the properties and you can make income out of it yourself, which is great.
Yeah. If you have like a rental portfolio, let's say you have like, a couple or even one, instead of, making income from a long-term rental, you can do short-term rental. And at minimum, you're usually going to make about double. Like, typically you're going to make 3x, even 4x of what you would from a long-term renter. Yeah. So that's number one, bar none, of why you should flip to short-term rentals. It's not worth it factor.
The second one is, as you said, like rental arbitrage. So the idea is that rather than having a property, having a mortgage and paying like, a note to a bank, you're basically controlling the property through the way of a lease agreement. So rather than you having to have ownership, you just essentially have control. So you're controlling it with monthly rental payments going to the landlord. But then, with the term being arbitrage, the idea is that you're selling time by the day. So you're paying for time by the month, but then because you're chopping it up and getting more use out of the property, that's when it's the same idea as like a rental car company, right? Yeah. So they basically go to the OEMs, they lease cars from the manufacturer for a monthly price, and then they're selling it to you at a daily price. So it's the exact same idea, but it's just applied to real estate. So you're controlling it with a lease and then selling time by the day.
Yeah. So just like layman terms, let's say that first place that we did was rental arbitrage. So rent on that was $1,000. On average, we probably made between $3,000 to $4,000 monthly. But you net out, utilities, you net out the cost of rent. We were making about, $2,000 to $3,000 net profit on that. So you're netting out the difference. So that's rental arbitrage.
Then something, yes, we're becoming a little bit more, so that's the second model. So first one again is ownership. Second one is rental arbitrage. The third idea, and as you said, this is something we're becoming a little bit more well-known for now, is the idea of short-term rental partnerships. So just to give some context, so what happened with us is we got up to around 5-6 properties when we were first starting, and it was really great, like no complaints, making money. But the thing is, like what we discovered was that even though it's significantly cheaper to do it that way than actually owning the property, there's still startup expenses, right? So you have rentals, payments you got to make, damage deposits. If you got to furnish the place, that can be capital intensive. So essentially, to be just transparent, we started running out of like cash, because it's like you'd have to put the money into the deal, wait for that money to come back in to have enough to do, then go and do. It just felt too slow, right? So we're like, well,
and one of the
what
things
if
I really liked about y'all was that you were getting the owner on title to ultimately contribute and or pay for all of the furnishings, correct?
Yeah, so that was a huge thing because, I mean, essentially, like Michael said, if you have furnishing costs, damage deposit, and rent, like that's three, I guess, risk factors with rental arbitrage, right? Like, what if we just eliminated all three of those? What would that look like? And when really by this time, like what we're doing in this space is quite rare. How to, build a business from short-term rentals. Already just doing Airbnb and short-term rentals is very different, just having one or two, but having multiple doors, managing it, having a team, that's already a niche within the niche. And so people started coming to us and like, how do we work with you guys? I mean, you have professional cleaners, your places are taken care of, like it's making their investment truly passive. And you just have to frame it in a way that you're actually offering a service.
Yeah. So basically what happened is we're sitting around one day going like, geez, like this is costing a lot of money to get these up and running, and it just feels too slow. So how do we get around this? So we said, well, if rent, damage deposits, and furnishings are the three biggest expenses to get a place going, here's a crazy idea. What if we just stop doing that and to stop paying that?
We literally had a management meeting. We said, what if we just stop paying that?
What if we just stop doing that altogether? Like, it's a crazy thought, right? But so then when people would approach us, or we would have conversations with them, they'd say, guys, this sounds really great. Like, how do we work with you? We would I'm not exaggerating. We would literally say, yeah, this is perfect. So, furnishings, that's the homeowner's responsibility. We don't sign leases and we don't have a deposit. However, based on what we see here, Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, you can actually make significantly more money if your property was a short-term rental versus than what you're asking for in rent. So we can actually help you manage this, get it all set up. And then once it's up and running, you literally don't have to do a thing. We'll take care of everything for you. We'll take care of bookings, cleanings, maintenance, and you're just going to get a report every month.
A report and a check in the mail and steady income and making more than you would from a long-term renter. So that's the benefit for you.
What does a day in the life look like for the two of you right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, day in the life with us. So currently, as we're on this call right now, we have 3 properties being set up. So, I mean, at the point that we're at with our business is it really, you can do this business by hard work, sweat, and tears all by yourself. However, you're going to get capped. There is only 24 hours in a day and you're going to get capped out by that. So for instance, right now, if we were still in the setup, doing all the managing of it, we wouldn't be on this call right now. So that's a big thing for us is how do you start building out a team, making sure you have a well-oiled systems, automations in place to make sure that it's actually running by itself as well. So that was a big thing for us because we actually started this business while we had full-time jobs. We couldn't do things in person. Like we couldn't be, taking phone calls. We couldn't be meeting people in person, giving them keys, right? Like we couldn't be sending them messages on the Airbnb and the platforms. So we actually had to figure out a system and a whole automations around it to make sure it was running by itself without us actually, being there and physically doing it. So that's the point that we've got to our business now is we've had systems, automations, having it run itself. So it's passive that way. And even to that point, you're still going to need a team and people. So we have a setup team at 3 places right now. They're coordinating the photographer, coordinating design, coordinating the cleans, and that's why we're able. So that's where we're at now. Really, it's highest leverage activities for us is getting new properties up and running, making sure they're going and having those deals signed and just making sure that's set up coming down the road.
Got it. Well, I certainly appreciate that. So, we're going into the summer months right now, which is where rental properties are obviously going to really spike. What are your projections for the summer? I mean, is it looking up? We've got a global pandemic going on right now. What's kind of the state of affairs there with y'all?
We're more excited than we've ever been.
Yeah. It's probably one of the best times to get a short-term rental up and running, literally, out of this full time. Yeah.
So in the middle of April, the CEO of Airbnb came out publicly and he made a statement saying the effect, well, currently we have about 4 million hosts on the platform globally, and we have a major problem. And the problem we have is that based on the demand that we see coming through, based on all the new bookings and stuff coming in, we are going to need at least several million more hosts in order to satiate this demand.
To meet the demand, yeah. Like,
so
essentially saying we don't have enough hosts. Like, so if you've actually even seen, I've seen a lot of advertising, Airbnb saying, hey, become an Airbnb host. Like, there's tons of advertising, and Airbnb doesn't advertise that much actually comparatively to a lot of the short-term rental platforms like booking.com, Vrbo, like those advertise quite a bit. Airbnb is trying to get hosts because to meet this demand to really, because this can be a boom. It's like everyone's been locked up for a year, and another demand is
be my next question. So people are, states and obviously countries are starting to loosen up now. Are you guys seeing a big rush for demand at this point? Everyone's trying to get out there, take their family on vacations and all the like. Are you guys seeing a big spike?
Yeah. So, I mean, certainly like compared to earlier times in the pandemic, yeah, we are definitely seeing very strong like margin recovery, and also just, booking activity booking velocity is picking up huge. So, I mean, the biggest thing right now is, I mean, we are trying to get as many properties as we possibly can just to be prepared for when, so like in our province in particular, we're slated to be fully open in July, and we can't wait.
We can't wait, like no mask, like everything, like completely open. And a big thing for us is not just going ahead and throwing up a property and saying, okay, we're open for business. It's what is going to make you different than everyone else? Because Airbnb is not new. Short-term rentals isn't new.
No.
But why will someone book your house over someone else's? So we're really focusing on amenity-rich places, beautiful design, making sure it's not the day and age of when this was new, where you could get up a listing, have grandma's furniture in it, and get booked. It's really a different game now. Like Marriott's getting into short-term rentals, like the big hotels are getting into short-term rentals. How are you now going to compete?
What are your marketing strategies? And, is there a big cost up front with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, for someone that's coming into this brand new, I mean, although like the space is changing, you can still do very well just getting on a lot of third-party booking platforms. And, for someone that's just getting started, you can still do very well just on Airbnb when you're first beginning. However, we would never say to anyone that's where you want to end your journey, because it's only one traffic source, and you never want to be 100% dependent on one single item.
Don't put your eggs in one basket, diversify, go multi-platform. And that was a big thing for us, really get that exposure. And it's not really it's not any extra money for us. It's just different commission fees on different platforms, and making sure you're mitigating and managing that, and also making it automated is a big way. So the automations as you go on multiple platforms, it's like you're having multiple listings. So you have to make sure you have your systems and infrastructure in place so that as you're growing and scaling, you're not putting more hours in your job.
Well, and part of it too is just running a good business so that people want to come back and stay with you again. Because the thing is, like, that's what makes a business sustainable, is having that repeat customer base come back again and again and again and tell their friends about it, right? Because the thing is, with short-term rentals, there's really no consistency between one host to another. So if people find a host that they like and they want to stay with them, like some of our guests have literally booked with us more than 25 times. I'm not exaggerating.
And they'll only book with us. And there's a reason for that. They get the consistency, they get the same, exposure, the same experience at any of our places. Is really creating that brand and loyalty. And also you can get direct bookings off of that too. So having that, direct booking streamlined as well, and just having all those different facets. And for them, it's savings as well.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's what ultimately kind of separates you guys, because I've talked to other folks in the short-term rental space, and you guys have this on kind of a rinse and repeat. You're very thorough and diligent. I've seen some of your reports. They're astounding to me, and I'm a math guy, but you guys are ridiculous about it. And I think that ultimately it boils down to that brand experience with you guys, which you've ultimately created at this point. So, people trust you. They know they're going to get what you're saying they're going to get. And I think that just goes so far. And then, obviously you're going to get referrals off of that as well. So what's your end goal, if you don't mind me asking? So you guys are in that 30 to 40 house space right now. What's your end game?
Yeah, it's funny you answer that. We've kind of had this discussion definitely a lot more recently, because I keep coming back to like, what's your worth it factor? Where's your goal? And it's so dependent on, our goals. Like for us, right now, our goal is to make $1,000 minimum per month. like net
per door.
like per door, like per door per month. So right now with 30 properties is 30 net profit in our pocket minimum.
Ask how close are you to that goal right now?
Oh no, we're already at that goal.
Yeah.
We're already hit that goal, and that's the thing. And so we're already at 30 net profit, and we're like, well, I mean, for us, we're at the point where we can get extremely picky. I'm like, which ones really make sense for us? You know, we're kind of even at the point now, it's like, it's only worth it if the math really makes sense and it's that perfect deal. And it's really, we're taking our time out of it, right? So we're not setting up the properties, we're not paying for anything. Those deals make sense to us that we're only setting up that time. So we slowed down our velocity. I mean, we have 9 in the pipe right now, really great deals, but anything we take on further for that, because we've already hit our goal, we just have to make sure it has that worth it factor.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're just getting started more. You know, I mean, you always want to begin with the end in mind, absolutely, but I mean, potentially, like if there's an opportunity in the future, the company gets acquired, that's, you know, maybe everything's for sale for the right price, as they say. But
even Marriott is buying up short-term rental management companies right now that have 50, 60 properties. They're actually purchasing them. So there's, you know, you have to definitely have that mindset, because if it's a rinse and repeat way, you always think about the exit clause, right? What's their exit strategy?
Sure. So just to be clear, you guys went from W-2 positions, both of y'all.
Yep.
Yeah.
From 0 to, it sounds like $35,000 to $40,000 a month consistently.
In 2.5 years. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, both of y'all. You know, this is true entrepreneurship. You guys have obviously built this from the ground up. The arbitrage thing was actually really shocking to me. And I've been a real estate guy for a number of years. You guys were really innovators and pioneers with that. And I imagine people are going to kind of follow your lead there, which is going to give me a good transition into your boot camp. We've had a ton of folks that have followed your lead, and you guys are now doing the coaching program. If you don't mind kind of breaking that down for us.
Yeah, so we've been coaching probably for about 1.5 years now.
Yep.
And this honestly came organically to us. And a lot of it was just with our exposure out in a lot of, you know, short-term rental groups, a lot in the community, seeing our progress, because like, make no bones about it, short-term rentals, it's not easy. Like, it's simple, but it's not easy, because there's just more of everything. There's more bookings, there's more cleanings, there's more messaging. Like, it's a lot of work.
A lot of moving parts. Yeah, of course. Yep.
And the thing is, usually people get around 2, maybe 3 properties, and then they're exhausted, they're capped out, and they're like, I can't grow any further because I don't have enough time. And for us, the way we built our business from the start was, how do we make less time as, you know, we grow our portfolio? How do we become less involved? Because it's working in the business and working on the business. Yeah. And that was a big distinction for us. So right from the get-go, we had systems, automations, a team in place, making sure it made sense with the numbers, to make sure it was an actual business that ran itself. That was the main goal for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, we typically work with a couple different groups of people. So the first group might actually be people in real estate already have rentals, and they just really want to get the best return on investment for their properties that they already have by just converting them over. Or it's someone that's brand new, never done this before, maybe has business experience, maybe doesn't. The majority of people don't. And we really coach them from the ground up of how you get this up and running and really start making income right away. So
yeah, so organically we started getting into this because a lot of people started reaching out to us being like, how did you guys in our first year like get to 12 properties, you know, without crashing and burning? How did you get the systems and automations in place? How did you get a pricing strategy optimization? And we're like, wow, like, you know what, people need a lot of help, and people need a lot of specific help, because every market is different that you're in. Every type of household, you know, from a basement suite to a 6-bedroom house, you know, is different markets. So for us, you know, we organically kind of fell into it, really being, okay, we need to help these people. And we solidified a program called the BNB Bootcamp. So throughout the last year and a half, we've had about, I think, 85 people come through our program.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was one-on-one coaching that we did. Through that, though, it's definitely been, even just with our time and sped up, we've actually even expanded our BNB Bootcamp to now have a mastermind program. So it's called the Elite Mastermind that we've created. It's an exclusive type program just because, number one, we wanted to help more people because we're capped off with one-on-one coaching. We can't do that much. And it's like, we want to be able to help more people. So the Elite Mastermind program that we've started is 10 people per month cap coming in, and it's a specific focus group that we're going to help people over the next 4 months get through their coaching goals, get their short-term rentals up and running, and really just have that one-on-one exposure in that group.
Yeah, I love that. And we've been trying to get you guys on the channel here for at least the last couple months, and you guys really just pumped the brakes. And I certainly appreciated and respected that, because you said, listen, we're kind of fleshing this out. We are, making sure that we've got all the support necessary and the servicing necessary. And now it seems like y'all are at this point. So kind of break down what, those coaching sessions would be like on a day-to-day or a week-to-week, what's included. Obviously, everyone's going to be curious about the costs. And I understand that you guys are providing a discount for the channel.
Correct. Yeah. So a little bit of background of what it actually is going to look like working in this elite group. So like I said, it's capped at 10 per month that we're taking because we really did like the one-on-one feel, but we want to get that exposure to more. So we don't want it to be, hundreds of people. Right now, it's just that cap of 10 that we're getting. So in there, it's a 4-month program that we're going to take someone through. So that's literally someone, coming from scratch of how do we set up a short-term rental business, right? So we're looking at LLCs, making sure we have the right website, marketing, everything really set up for the foundations of starting a business. And really, through the 4-month program, we're going to take you through really starting from scratch to getting a full automated short-term rental business up and running with at least 1, most likely 2 to 3 properties up and running and cash flowing. That's the goal. So within that time, like I said, we're going to be getting the business foundations on there. How do you even find these properties? Like I said, it's very important to make sure you get the right properties for this. So, what is the income potential? Does it make sense? How do you find them? Once you found them, how do you even have those conversations with landlords? That's a big thing. How do you have those conversations, right? How do you really present this? Make sure that they're interested and show that it's a service and get that proper deal signed, done, and get it set up to take guests.
The next portion would be, okay, so now we have a property, you have an agreement with the person. Well, now we need to maximize and optimize the amount of revenue and cash flow that you're making. So this is worth your time. So this is where we're going to spend a lot of time on getting a pricing strategy in place and also having an optimized listing, because these two really go hand in hand in order to really drive and maximize the amount of income that you're making from a property.
Yeah, like I said, it's just not enough right now to have a property, get it set up, have grandma's furniture in it and try to get bookings. Let's maximize, the amount of revenue that you can get, and you're not leaving money on the table. That's huge. Actually having a pricing strategy. Really from there, as we're going through the 4-month program, we're adding more doors, we're getting an actual business built. So the third phase that we want to get through people through is what we call bulletproof business, is really looking at systems, automations, having a team, making sure that we're starting to get the infrastructure so that you're ready to actually scale and grow safely.
Yeah. So the biggest thing here is you have the right foundation so that as you're adding more doors, you're not just adding more time to your day here, because we want to be building a business, not creating a job, right? That's the biggest distinction with what we want to do in this phase here. The final phase is, this is when we really start to introduce different structures that you can utilize within short-term rentals. So again, owning properties is one way, doing rental arbitrage is another way. But then we really dive deep into this idea of partnerships. And this is how we can essentially take all of the financial risk out of the transactions down to basically zero. Okay. And this is how you can scale a portfolio a lot faster, because if you don't have to come out of pocket for rent, damage deposits, or furnishings, quite literally what's happening is you're just signing agreements and you're plugging them into your systems and off you go, right? So
with that partnership, so you would probably equate that to syndication?
There's some similarities to that from the partnership angle to like a syndication type angle, but there's a lot of, so within partnerships, there's about 6 different models that we would take someone through. So whether it means having an investor put up the money to get the furnishings in, or whether you're negotiating to have the homeowner take that on, it really just, it's going to vary deal by deal.
Of how you're actually setting up the structure.
Yeah.
And speaking of structure, what it actually looks like to work within this elite mastermind, what kind of calls are looking at and what kind of support. So you're working with us, Michael and myself, for that 4 months in that focus group. So really within that, you're going to have weekly Q&As with us. So your questions are going to be answered really quick. We're going to make sure you're on track, getting that support that you need one-on-one in what's happening in your market and making sure you're on track with that accountability. That's huge for us. In portion with those weekly calls, we have a members area. The member area has everything in there. It has pre-recorded videos of actually how you need to do this step by step. It has videos of us in our account, how you set up the right automations, right systems, software recommendations, and really from there too, you get everything, like anything we do in our business. So deal structures, contracts, furnishing checklist. That furnishing checklist, it has even links on there. It's like very detailed, it goes down to a potato peeler.
Yeah.
What kind of design you need, like everything we use in our business, you have access to.
So you guys have really spent a lot of time, it sounds like, over the last handful of months at least, setting up those online resources. So it's literally just a click away. Obviously, they've got a phone call with you, a live phone call with you every week. Let's talk about two things here. First and foremost, what does that program cost? And let's hear some results from some of your all students.
Yes, for sure. So typically our mastermind class, we have it going for $12K US. However, because of our relationship with VIP, everything we've done, and this mastermind coming in, we are now offering that discount for $8K for the first 10 students going in that first month.
So a discount down to $8,000. So when we were talking a few weeks ago, we priced this out at $18,000.
We did.
And y'all were generous enough. I think that y'all just really want to help people. Obviously, you're a for-profit business. Let's be very clear here. So we're not hoodwinking anyone, but coaching is so valuable and so important. You guys have made all the mistakes. You guys have built your business from the ground up, and now you're sharing that with others. So what's an average? If they've got 2 or 3 properties in their first year, is it easy to offset that upfront cost? What does that ROI look like?
Yeah, that's really
great success stories too. So if you can share one of those.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. So for us, couple things on, we can even some VIP financial students that we've had and their success, we can definitely talk about that. But realistically, you're right. There is the upfront cost to get into this, but it's not just the cost of the program, it's for literally teaching you a skill to be able to take this and grow this and have the automations and the systems in place to take it to whatever level you need. That's going to be paying for you for years, not just over the cost of the program.
Yeah. So, in terms of actual results, like all programs, results vary student to student, but a few people jump to mind, just from how you've asked the question. So one of our clients named Nathaniel, he came into the program. This would have been around late December, early January. In his first 2 months of so once he got his listings live, the very first month he had a listing live, he did more than $45,000 in bookings in the first 30 days. Within his first 2 months, he did over $83,000 in bookings. So pretty quick results, right? One of our other clients, his name is Zach. He came to us and he had a number of properties actually in the Ozarks, like out of Missouri, I think it is.
Just like the show.
And now he's on his 5th property, and we're just getting towards the end of his program now, but he's bringing in just well over $10,000 a month in income, which is just absolutely incredible. Absolutely
incredible. And just on simpler terms, Adam, that joined, he's right by Mount Rushmore. He had 2 rental properties there. The long-term tenants were leaving. He's like, I really want to turn these to short-term rentals. I have this fear. I don't know if it's going to work. We worked with him, made sure he had it all set up. And so how much was he making from his 2 properties?
So his 2 properties combined before we're bringing in around $2,200-$2,300, I think is what he was telling us.
From long-term renters. From
long-term. He got one of them converted over, and just the one property so far within the first month of being live has done more than $4,500.
From one property.
So he's now making double off of one property what he used to make with 2.
Yeah, guys, we talk about often on this channel, we talk about long-term buy and holds, with the arbitrage system, with what you guys are doing with the Airbnb is just phenomenal right now. So guys, go ahead and drop a like below. It helps our algorithm. So Michael and Katrina are going to be on standby with their team. So if you want more information on this, please reach out. BNB, so B, N as in Nancy, B Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. Obviously include your first, your last name, and your phone number so they can get back to you very promptly. Subscribe below if you're not already a subscriber to our channel. We are always looking to get new folks on here. Also hit the bell below so that will give you notifications on when we have new and relevant content, just like Michael and Katrina are sharing with us today with these short-term Airbnb rentals. Until next time, make it a great day and take care. Thank you.